Go
Hey,
ahead,
Judge,
David.
I want to thank you for coming on, Judge.
My
Um,
pleasure.
please, with the people, I know we've been trying to get you on, and you don't have a lot of time. For the people that are watching, just introduce yourself and let them know your history, and being behind the bench, and so people can get to know you and know who you are. A lot of people know who you are, but we want them to get a taste.
Okay, great. Let me tell you a little bit about my background. As I'm Sam Walker, and I've been a judge for 32 years. And I'm local. I'm a graduate of Lehman College
Oh,
and Howard University School of Law. And when I graduated law school, I was employed by General Foods Corporation as a patent attorney. So I moved up to White Plains, New York. And I worked for General Foods for about 8 years as a patent lawyer. And at the end of 1988, Mayor Blackwood appointed me as the Associate City Court Judge for the city of Mount Vernon. And I worked as the Associate City Court Judge in Mount Vernon until 1994, the end of 94, when Mayor Blackwood appointed me to the full-time position, and I ran in 1995 for a 10-year term. As you guys know, City Court handles misdemeanor criminal cases. We do landlord tenants, we do traffic, we do matters of that nature. We we mainly a local court, and we come into contact with a lot of citizens. I worked in Mount Vernon from as I said from 1989 until 2002, and in January 1st, 2002, I was appointed an acting family court judge in the city of Yonkers. And I worked in Yonkers for 2 years. I really enjoyed the family court, and the reason why I enjoyed the family court was family court had the tools for you to do a lot of good things to assist the individual. There were resources available in the family court, and you could do a lot of good things. I enjoyed city court also, but city court was a bit difficult for me as a person of color
mm,
because when you sit criminal back in those crack days, and I remember one day I had two generations, I mean, three generations, grandparent, parent, and child
Mm,
appeared before me on drug charges, and it just kind of ripped out my gut. It was very difficult to handle.
mm,
But I did my best in terms of offering a lot of the litigants who came before my court alternatives. I believe that drug addiction was a disease, and I had a difficult time, and I probably resisted at every instance of sending people to jail for drug charges. I'd rather send them to treatment. And
mm,
those who wanted to go to treatment, I would send them to treatment. I also believe that if the tenant pays his rent or her rent, he has a right to a decent place to live in. I was
mm,
tough on landlords who used to collect the rent and come to court, and they didn't maintain the buildings, and people were paying rent and they were living in squalor. So I worked with Ernie Davis, who was the mayor at the time, and we did a lot of good work. We put boilers in, I used to appoint administrators for these buildings. And we put roofs on, windows on, boilers in. We did a lot of good things for the city of Mount Vernon and the people of Mount Vernon.
mm,
I ran in 2002 for the county court, and I was elected to the county court. I didn't believe that I was the first person of color to be elected, first Democrat of color to be elected to county court in 2002. I just
mm.
thought the county was a little bit more advanced. So I
Right.
went up to White Plains in 2002, and I went up in 2003 because I was in Yonkers for 2 years. And I tried all variety of criminal cases, from
Mm-hmm.
homicides all the way down to rape, robberies, and the entire thing. So I have a lot of experience in trying cases. In 2006, I was appointed, I was elected to the Supreme Court. In fact, I was elected in 2006 in
Mm-hmm.
the Supreme Court. When I was elected, I sat in the Integrated Domestic Violence Court. That court, one judge handled the family court, the criminal court, and the family criminal and the matrimonial, affecting family that's involved in domestic violence. That I did for 5 years. Then I've been sitting in the, then I sat in the general matrimonial part for 2 years. And for the past 7 or 8 years, I've been sitting in the general civil part of the court.
Okay.
I've been doing a lot. I'm the supervising judge of the city courts. All the city courts, the ones in Westchester County, Dutchess County, and Orange County, I supervise those courts. I'm also in charge of the foreclosure part of the Supreme Court. So I handle all the foreclosures. I supervise all the foreclosure action in the 5 counties. I'm chair of the pro bono committee. We have a lot of interesting pro bono programs going on. We have programs assisting individuals who are losing their home to foreclosure. We have programs where we assist the elderly. We have programs where we provide representation to individuals who are seeking divorces with and without children and can't afford counsel. So I've been doing a whole lot. I was president of the Westchester County Black Bar. I was president of the Westchester County Bar. I sat in the Grievance Committee. That's the committee that disciplined lawyers. I sat in the House of Delegates for the State Bar. I mean, for 32 years, I've done a whole lot.
Yes, sir.
So I'm running for re-election to the Supreme Court this coming November. And that's a capsule, a short version of my bio.
Yes, sir.
I'm starstruck.
So that's what I've done, 32 years.
God bless, man. God bless.
Oh my gosh.
Judge Sam, let me ask you a question, because you said you looked at drug addiction as a disease, but at that time in the crack era, a lot of people talked about how they pushed the whole law and order and criminalized it. And now that you see with the heroin addiction, they're talking about the disease. They're switching it around. When they talk about now with the heroin, they want to do what you were trying to do back in the crack era and look at it as a disease.
Yeah, it's you see, it's all. It took him 20 years to get to where I was.
Right, you were ahead of your time.
So because I fell deep down. I couldn't understand, other than the circumstances of one's life, why one would want to use drugs. And there are underlying issues we discovered. There are mental health issues that drive people into drug addiction. And it's a policy. When Judith Kaye became chief judge of the state of New York, I think she switched and she started looking at also when the cost of incarceration started to compete with the cost of educating people, then people started to look at it totally different. And they recognized that we're better off treating someone for a fraction of the cost to incarcerate them.
That's right.
And now we don't even send people to jail now unless you're a serious criminal. We have drug courts, we have sex offenders courts, we have mental health courts, we have specialized courts for just about everything. We have veterans court. So what happens is that if you fall in one of those groups and you commit a crime, they bring you in and they do an evaluation and they determine whether or not they can provide assistance, because it's cheaper than sending you to jail.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's from an economic standpoint, I think they're viewing it, and from a humanitarian standpoint, because jail does never help any drug addict that I know. The treatment has.
You're right. Any questions, AJ?
Well, no, I just want to applaud him for being ahead of his time, because I definitely wanted to speak on that. Damon had already spoke on that. Like, while you identified it as a disease, that definitely was not the theme of the time. Like, they were criminalizing everybody. We had the crime bill came through on a federal level during that time, and all this stuff. And now we're starting to get to that point now, like you said, 20-something years later. I think that alone is very impressive. It needs to be applauded. And I definitely wanted to just do that. You know,
thank you so much.
Applaud you on that. You mentioned something about disciplining attorneys or something like that, and I didn't catch you when you went through the whole thing, huh?
There's a committee called the Grievance Committee. It's a committee where if you want to file a charge against an attorney, if for some ethical violation, you would file it with that committee. And the committee is made up of lawyers and members of the general public. And they would review and make recommendations to the appellate court as to, how that matter should be handled.
Really?
Oh, okay. Does that apply? I know there's attorneys. Does that apply to judges as well, or no? Just or people like district attorneys or something, or just
ethics that discipline judges also. There's disciplinary committee that does both lawyers and judges, two separate committees. The Grievance Committee does the lawyers, and the commissioner in judicial ethics, I think, does the judges. If a judge commits an act of violate the rules of judicial ethics, that judge can be brought up on charges also.
That's good to know.
Well, I don't think the public. Does the public really? I never knew you could do that.
No.
That's why I asked that question.
I'm telling you, I didn't know.
I didn't think
it's ethical violations, and that judges get removed all the time. Every other week, you pick up the law journal, you see a judge either getting admonished or getting removed from the bench for violating the standard of conduct that judges are required to uphold. We're held to high standards, definitely held to high standards.
Now let me get you.
Judges get removed. You see, once you're upstate New York, a lot of the judges are not lawyers. These are just regular teachers or regular individuals who run for elected and get elected to become a judge, and they get trained. So, but we all go through ethical training, and we all know what the rules. As a matter of fact, to be admitted to the bar as a lawyer, you have to pass an ethics exam.
Now, for someone who has to go to court, maybe does not have a whole lot of money to pay lawyers and stuff, and they felt like their rights were violated or something like that, how would they go about making such a complaint on their own? How would they go about that?
About the lawyer?
The lawyer?
The lawyer.
Yeah.
The Westchester County Bar Association. You can write to the Westchester County Bar Association, and they'll provide you. You can go on the website, and they can provide you with information as to how you can file a complaint against a lawyer or a judge.
Oh, okay. I think that's information that definitely a lot of people don't know, and definitely does not trickle down to our community, where most of those kind of violations would actually take place. I'm glad that you brought that up. Hopefully, I just learned something. Hopefully, some of our viewers
inform the people. Yes, inform the people. Yes.
Right.
I have a question, Damon.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I want to make a statement. Your Honor, we've interviewed a lot of judges, and we've got a lot of judges that are going to be coming on the show. But I got to say that I think I'm starstruck. I'm very impressed, and it's an honor to meet you. Now, I have a question. How long is the term? And Damon and I were trying to figure this out earlier. How many seats are available in this election, and how many people are running?
Okay, I believe that there are 4 seats that are vacant.
Oh, 4. Okay.
And I think that there are 7 of us that are running. So the top 4 vote getters will get the 4 seats.
Okay.
And how long is the term?
The Supreme Court term is 14 years.
14, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Supreme Court is 14. County Court is 10. City Court is 10.
Okay. Thank you, Judge, for that clarification. Because there's 4 seats. Oh, you shoe in, man. 4 seats. You got one of those seats.
I'm at the end of my career at this particular juncture. After 32 years, I'm almost at age 70, everyone retires.
Oh, okay.
However, the Supreme Court judges can work for 6 additional years until they are 76. But
Okay.
every 2 years they have to pass a physical and mental exam. It's
Okay.
called certification.
Oh, okay.
And after age 76, you're gone. You're off forever.
So if you get reelected and you for 14 years, if you get reelected for 14 years and you turn 76 midway through, do you have to leave the bench?
I have
Yeah.
to leave the bench.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they would appoint someone temporarily to that position
Yes.
until there was an election.
Your seat is gonna go up when you become 70. Someone else is gonna run for your seat. So the only way you can stay on is unless you get certificated until you're 76. Once you
Oh,
get to 70, that's it. And that only applies to the Supreme Court, the family court and the county court and
You're
the
gone
city
at
court.
70, yeah.
Once you get to 70, you're off forever.
okay. So 70 is a cutoff. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. You really educated a lot of people that's watching.
So if you reach that age in the middle of a term or the middle of like after an election, so would there be a special election? Would someone be appointed temporarily and then
No
have to
special
run?
election.
Okay.
For instance, if I turn 70 in 2 or 3 years,
Mhm.
when I become 70, the year I turn 70, someone is running for my seat in that year. For
Really?
instance, if I turn 70 in 2023, okay, November 2023, someone is running for my seat.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like city court, because like city court, when a judge retires or gets promoted, the mayor then appoints someone and then they have to run in the election.
Oh yeah, because what happens at Supreme Court is, typically in city court, the mayor would appoint, but the mayor doesn't have to appoint. The mayor
Right.
the mayor could say, let's wait till November, but because the court would be down to judge, the mayor would appoint, but that individual has to run the following November.
Right.
And the same thing applies I mean, in the Supreme Court, they run in the year you turn 70.
Okay.
Okay. So in January 1st of the following year, there's gonna be someone replacing you.
Okay. Okay.
Like here in Yonkers, a dear friend and still mentor to this day, Judge Ed Gaffney, turned 70, and so he had to leave the bench. The mayor appointed somebody, but they lost the primary.
Right.
Yeah, they had to run a couple of months later, and he lost the primary.
Right. Someone was appointed to fill Judge Gaffney's seat, and that person had to run the following November or in the primary if there's a primary. And if that person lost the primary, that person's out.
Yes. He's gone.
He's gone. Yes.
Yeah.
See, I thank you for educating. A lot of judicial candidates and people that are already judges running for re-election fall on they can't answer a lot of questions because they're judges. But you're the first that has actually sat here and educated our audience on the breakdown of how all of that goes. And I definitely thank you for dispensing that information, because one of the things we try to do, well, I learn with every show and every article that I do, I learn something new. That's how I learn. But, and then I'm able to articulate it to the audience. But you have articulated a lot of information to our audience. So hopefully our audience is learning something right now as you speak.
There's certain questions that as judges we can't take position on.
Right.
And I understand that. But you're asking me questions about how the system works. So there's no prohibition against providing that information. That's information that's available in the public.
Right.
So I'm just providing you with information that people know. But there are certain issues, as those judges rightfully states that we're not allowed to, we can't answer, because answering a question would be prejudging how you would rule on a particular matter that comes before your court. So
Right.
it's standard procedure that certain areas we don't get involved with at all.
Yeah. And now I want to ask you a question that maybe hopefully you can answer. In your 30-something years on the bench, how have you seen the court change? Because I'm sure the court is not the same as when you went in, the system. How have you seen it change? You know,
Well,
different laws.
The first thing is that we have a lot more judges of color, so many more than we have had years ago. And a lot of us are bringing our you know, I'm a believer that I'm a product of the community that I live in. I serve the people of my community, and I'm a person of color, so I'm going to bring my perspective to the bench. And a lot of us are on the bench, and a lot of us are bringing certain, not that I'm not accusing my colleagues for not doing the same thing, but I'm saying though that those of us who are of color, we have a certain level of sensitivity to issues that affect us, and we know our communities and we know our people. So we bring that to the bench. That's why it's so important to have a diversified bench.
Right.
Empathy too. Empathy.
Well, that's why I was saying one of the things, like, and I was complimenting the Yonkers City Court. You know, we had a first Latina female last year, and the possibility of having 2 African-American females and a Latino man this year. Like, the court is starting to be remade in the image of the community, as opposed to, you know, a room full of, you know, just all white men in robes. You know what I mean? Like, it's more like what the community looks like. And I'm seeing that across the bench, across the spectrum, but especially in the city of Yonkers, you know, with 2 African-American women coming up this year and a Latino last year. That's big change in 2 years.
I remember when after Bruce Stallbert won and went to family court, Yonkers didn't have a black judge in over 20 years until Judge Inlaw, until Evan Inlaw was elected.
Right.
And now we have
Evan Inlaw.
Two black women. We have a Latino judge, and who
knows
what the future has in store.
That's right.
Right. It's a beautiful thing, especially with all these calls for criminal justice reforms and stuff like that. One of the candidates running, Vera Shackle, said, "Good show, hi Judge Walker." She's one of the African American women in Yonkers City Court running for the, and she was the highest vote getter in the primary.
The primary, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, hi, Doris. I have a question for you, Judge. You're on the ballot. Does that mean you won the primary? And if you did, what lines are you on?
In Supreme Court, there is no primaries. The candidates come out of a convention, and the delegates to the convention vote, and that's how you become a candidate for the Supreme Court. So there are no primaries to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Okay, and so at the convention, there's four openings, and how many do they vote for? 9, 7? How many again?
No. The reason why I told you it was 7 people in the race, because there are individuals on the Republican and the conservative lines also.
Oh.
So what happens is that there are delegates from the 5 counties, because the Supreme Court is 5 counties: Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Dutchess, and Orange. And each county has delegates. And the delegates go to the convention, and the delegates vote at the convention. And that's how we end up with the candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And each party has their convention, and each party selects their candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you get him. Okay, thank you.
So the Democrats picked 4 in this.
I think the conservative picked 4 also.
Okay.
And the Republicans, I picked 4 also. They all picked 4.
Yeah,
okay. We're going to have the other 3 Democrats on next week.
Right.
They're all going to be on next week. The other 3 Democratic candidates.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Judge
Right.
Walker, what lines do you have for those who?
Because I'm an incumbent judge, I was fortunate enough to be on both the Democratic, Republican, and conservative lines.
Okay.
But I'm a Democrat.
That's an important distinction to make these days.
But you will take those Republican and conservative votes too.
I've
Well,
been
yeah,
elected
you
as a
got, you know,
Democratic
people
for
gonna love you
all-
regardless
all
of
my
what, they
life
gonna vote for
and-
you regardless of what party they in.
Oh, okay.
I know, Judge. I know you said you had a.
Yeah, I'm running late. So
Okay, thank you. I want
Any-
so
to,
thank
anything
you
we
guys.
did-
Thank you so much for
anything we
having me on. I really
Anything we
appreciate
didn't
it.
ask you that you want people to know in closing?
Oh,
Is
just make sure that when you go to vote or when you fill out your absentee ballot, Sam Walker.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
We
sir.
thank you.
And you
We-
can only vote for me once. A lot of
Okay.
folks are confused because they see my name appearing 3 times. But you can vote for me in any of those lines.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
We
Okay.
sir.
want to thank you for not
Thank
just
you.
coming on, but educating all of us and making us all smarter from this interview as you leave right now.
It's
Thank
my
you.
pleasure. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
All
you.
right.
God bless.
Okay.